Hi everybody, I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Carolyn Valdez. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm 52 years old. And before I start this testimony, I need to give a huge shout out to one man. We all know him as the Billy Bob. And thank you, Billy Bob, for introducing Kayani to me. And as I go on with my testimony, you'll understand why this is so important for me to make my very first video and to explain what's going on with me and how it affected my life. So here goes. In 1982, I was diagnosed with lupus. The reason I was diagnosed with lupus is because I suffered a blue and red butterfly rash that covered 85% of my body. And I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and the only treatment for that was for ultraviolet tanning sessions and sauna baths, and it took 3 weeks to get out of my system. And most of you know that the first regimen they do for autoimmune diseases is high steroids. I was doing it both intravenously and orally, and that gave me steroid-induced diabetes. And we were able to get that under control, but I was still having symptoms. But this time it was affecting my vision. It was doubling my vision. I was weak to where I couldn't step up one step without it feeling like I climbed a huge mountain. Then it started affecting my motor skills, which was my chewing, my swallowing, my talking, my walking. And for the longest time, for 2 years of that, I was told it was all in my head, that I was making up symptoms that didn't exist. Well, in 1997, I have to give another huge shout out to our First Lady, Barbara Bush. She was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis back in 1997. And with her being high in political power and around people with money, they formed the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation. And they offered cruises around a Caribbean island. And people were paying pricey tickets, and 100% of the proceeds went to the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation. So after she was diagnosed in 1997, I was diagnosed in 1999 with myasthenia gravis, and some of us know it as MG. And they started a treatment which was called IVIG chemotherapy. After 32 rounds of going through IVIG, that's when we realized that I was allergic to the only thing that can help me. So then they started doing plasmapheresis. And what plasmapheresis is similar to dialysis, is where they use two 17-gauge needles, one to pull out my blood, shove it into the machine, filter it through a filter, and another 17-gauge needle to push it back into my body and back into my bloodstream. But I was continually having more symptoms that kind of mimicked the myasthenia, but wasn't the myasthenia. And that's when I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy. Some of us only get it on the right side, or some of us get it on the left side. Again, I'm a medical miracle, and it jumped back and forth, left and right, into me. But I was still having myasthenia crisis, and I was still having symptoms. So that's when they did the thymectomy. A thymectomy is open chest surgery, similar to the same way they do open heart surgery, to remove my thymus gland. And now the first regimen for myasthenia patients who are first diagnosed is the thymectomy. And I would say 8 out of 10 of us, thymectomy can cure you from myasthenia. But again, I'm a medical miracle. I suffer from more illnesses, and it did not work for me. So again, I was back on plasmapheresis. And then my systems worsened, and it mimicked the myasthenia, and they knew something else was going on, and that's when I was sent to another hospital, and that's when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a lot of us know it as MS. And then I would like to say that I've gone through 9 different hospitals throughout the United States. I have over 24 doctors who still see me on a regular basis, and 7 surgeons. So I kept having symptoms, and again, it was outside the normal of myasthenia and MS, and that's when they diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. Because of the nerve pain and the neuropathy, and again, it was outside of the other illnesses. That's when they diagnosed me with that. And then in 2005, I was diagnosed with stage 2 cervical cancer. And since I had the myasthenia gravis, I cannot go under on any type of surgery. So surgery was not an option for me. So what they did is they took liquid nitrogen and inserted it in my uterus and scraped it. And this went on for 2 hours. And they would freeze it for 20 minutes and scrape it, refreeze it, scrape it until it was no longer. And then with the plasmapheresis, you need an actual axis to have the 17 gauge needles go in. And I had my first fistula installed. They usually do fistulograms or grafts. We chose the fistula because of my ailments. And usually fistulograms fix the problems that you're having. And that's when I was diagnosed with arterial stenosis. And forgive me for my slurred speech. Myasthenia starts taking a downfall by 3 o'clock is when I start having more motor skill issues. And then after the arterial stenosis, I was diagnosed with Raynaud's phenomenon, which most of you know is because of lack of blood flow and to your fingertips and your toes. So with that problem of arterial stenosis, again, you know, I have all 3. I need fistulograms. Sometimes for the last 6 months, I was doing it every 3 weeks. And then some months, I'm able to go 6 weeks without one. Well, that's when Billy Bob introduced me to nitro. I read it and instantly told him, I need this in my life. Because with the 3rd fistula, before Kayani, they did 1 sonogram, and you know the width was only at a 0.75, which is too narrow for 2 needles to go through. So that's when they did a fistulogram. And then 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks after that, we did another sonogram, and it showed that my vein has increased, and it was at a 1.5, but it was still narrow and clogged enough to where I needed another fistulogram. And like I said, I do them every 3 weeks or every 6 weeks, and I've been doing this for 19 years. And when I started taking nitrogen, or the nitro, I noticed an automatic difference. And I told Billy Bob that since my blood is clean and I don't have everything in my blood, that it should react differently and faster into my system. And it did, because just in a matter of days that I started the Nitro FX, I had to go in for another sonogram because I was scheduled for surgery. And they told me, wow, what have you done different? This is the best your vein has ever looked. I've never had, sorry if I get teary-eyed, I never heard the words, let's move it up. And I never heard the words, let's cancel it all in all. And now I am. Now I have no surgery scheduled in this month, and they're going to do another sonogram of my fistula in 3 weeks to see how it's functioning and if there's more growth. And I'm going to have to say yes, there will be, because the Nitro has done so much for me. That I wanted to get it out there to my Kayani family, so you all know that I suffer from a lot of illnesses, and what it has done for me makes me want to be a distributor. I have medical images and documentation to prove that the Nitro is actually working in my system. And I feel so relieved and so strong in the Nitro product that I'm out there to save the next person. I want to say, yes, I have your illness and this is what it's done for me. I'm not out there to want the money. Money has never meant anything. I'm doing it because I stand behind the Kani products. The Triangle Health Pack has changed my life. It's, like I said, it's not only changed me, it's saved me. And now I want to go help and save other people who won't have to go through 19 years of struggles, that won't have to go through everything I have gone through. If I can prevent it and help it from one guy walking up off the curb, if I can do that, I will do that. And I'd like to thank you for your time and have a good evening. Again, my name is Carolyn Valdez. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I am on Facebook. So my County family, look me up. And if you have any questions or you want to hear more of my testimony, I'm here for you. Again, thank you for your time and you have a good night.